Good morning, everybody. On behalf of the family of Allan Watanabe, I want to thank you for being here to celebrate his life. A life that was lived well, a life that touched every person in this room. And I'd like to begin the celebration by asking the color guard to come forward for the flag presentation.
walked with me, footprints in the sand, and helped me understand where I'm going. You walked with me when I was all alone, with so much unknown along the way. Then I heard you say, I promise you I'm always there. When your heart is filled with sorrow and despair, I'll carry you. When you need a friend, you'll find my footprints in the sand. I see my life flash across the sky. So many times have I been so afraid. And just when I thought I'd lost my way, you gave me strength to carry on. That's when I heard you say, I promise you I'm always there. When your heart is filled with sorrow and despair, I'll carry you. When you need a friend, you'll find my footprints in the sand. When I'm weary, well, I know you'll be there, and I can feel you when you say, I promise you I'm always there. When your heart is filled with sorrow and despair, and I'll carry you. When you need a friend, you'll find my footprints in the sand.
Time of sharing our memories of Allan by asking his nephew, Ryan, to please come forward and share his memories of his uncle.
Hello, I'm Ryan, Allan's nephew. My family and I would like to thank you for taking the time to come and remember my uncle. We're thankful for all the love and support that we received from uncle's relatives and friends through this tough period. With this in this COVID era, it's been difficult. I think it's kind of hitting me now. That he's gone in isolation. We really haven't seen each other, and it's made it a difficult process. It seems like I just expect to see him. But anyway, I know each of you knew him in your own unique way, and I encourage you, if you're willing to share a story with us, to come forward, I believe there's some note cards in there if you want to fill those out. So that we can each learn something about my uncle that we might not have known about him. Since his obituary is included in the order of service, I thought I'd skip over a lot of sort of his life history stuff and provide you with a little bit of insight in my uncle's life and what was important to him and what he shared with me. A lot of times, I'm sort of a night owl, and hanging out with my uncle, he'd either at his cabin in Lake Tahoe, or when he'd come visit with my family, or on occasions where I'd stayed with him at his house. We'd have these sort of like heart-to-heart conversations about just various things, but about his life. And I sort of struggle a little bit, what to say here. There's some things in his life that I think really affected him, and I think it's shown in how he treated people, the friendships he made, and he's a pretty simple guy. He didn't need material things. He wasn't interested in that. I think above everything, he cherished friends and family. So, family was very important to my uncle, but sometimes it was like a source of pain in his life. He told me about when he was a little boy, his family moved back to Japan after the war, and he lived with his family lived with his grandparents on his Watanabe side of the family, and the grandparents they used to sort of like instigate fights between my uncle and my dad, his little brother. And to top it off, they'd always used to root for my dad to win. So I think that always sort of hurt him, that family would do that. Eventually, their family, they ended up moving to another town, and they lived with his grandparents on the Miyazaki side of the family. And there, my uncle, my dad, and my aunt, they received the proper care and love that grandparents should provide their grandchildren. Their parents, my grandmother and my grandfather had an arranged marriage, and they're not really compatible people, living sort of post-World War II in Japan was tough too, and they didn't really provide like the loving family environment. My Auntie Shirley, she often had to took on sort of a motherly role to help care for her younger brothers. When my grandparents and my aunt returned to the United States, my uncle and my dad stayed behind with their Miyazaki grandparents in Japan for a while. And my uncle told me that was the happiest time of his childhood, because his grandparents took such great care of them. And he never forgot that. It was always how we thought a family should be. My uncle, he always tried to be the good son. He always, wanted to be worthy of love and praise from his parents. But he felt like he never could get it, attain it from them. He would tell me, he just couldn't understand why his parents, seeing some of his other friends be just supportive of their children. He did a lot of activities. In high school, I guess he ran track, and he did like judo, and his parents, they never took the time to come watch him any of his sporting events as a kid. They're always too busy to make him a priority and to come show support for him. And I remember during one of our sort of late night conversations, he told me that, he was once engaged, and that, because it would have been an interracial marriage. His parents really were against it, and they tried to dissuade him from going through with it, even going so far as having my grandmother asking one of his uncles to help persuade him. And I think, he always felt like, he always wanted to do what was right for his family, and and he went along with his parents' wishes, and to great personal cost. I remember when I took my wife, who is my college girlfriend at the time, and being a poor college student, we were looking for a place to vacation, and called up my uncle and said, hey, I know you're going to be at your cabin in Tahoe, and can we come up and visit and hang out, for a few days? And he's like, sure, yeah, come up. And he was so supportive of us, and he welcomed her, my wife, just like if she was part of the family. It was all sort of his nature. He's always so kind and welcoming. Um, you know, he just treated everybody so well. I remember when I graduated from college, he came up to see my college graduation, and he pulled me aside, and I remember him telling me that my dad told him how proud it was, how proud he was that I graduated from college. At the time, I didn't think much. I told him, yeah. My dad didn't tell me that, but I knew it. I could see it, in my dad's eyes. Sense of pride. But it's the Watanabe men. We're not all that good at being complimentary or offering praise, showing a lot of emotion. It's kind of one of our faults. But I knew he, because my uncle didn't, he never got that praise from his parents. He just wanted to make sure that I knew how my dad felt. And I thanked him for it. And, I'm telling you some of these stories about kind of just when we just have our late night talks, and he'd tell me, it wasn't always about, the good times and, some of these bits of adversity in his life that really glad he shared with me, helped put a little bit of perspective in who he was as a person and understanding him. Growing up as a kid, I would see my uncle at all the major holiday gatherings at my Aunt Shirley's house with her family, and on occasions when we went up to Lake Tahoe, he was always kind and generous with us, but I always sensed there was a little bit of something kind of holding him back with us. And I remember one time he stopped by our house after school. We were kids. Unexpectedly, we weren't expecting him, and he came by to deliver us an Atari video game cartridge that he bought for us. I remember it was Qbert. My brother and I were there. We're taking turns playing the game, talking with him. But he probably stayed, I don't know, less than 15 minutes at our house before heading home. And I remember my brother and I thought it was kind of weird. It's lived in Oxnard, and we lived in Orange County, and it's a fairly long drive. It seemed like an eternity as a kid. But that visit, and it always sort of stuck with me. And then as an adult, I remember one of our late night conversations, I asked him about it, you know. I said, like, why'd you come? Why'd you leave so, so early? You didn't just really stick around. And he told me, when you and your brother were kids, I never wanted to impose on your family. My uncle was so considerate, I guess. I remember staring at him at the time. I told him, "Hey, crazy old man, we're family." You're my uncle, and you never have to worry about imposing upon us. If you want to come and visit, just do it. Just do it. He laughed. I told him, "No, I mean it." And I think that was something he needed to hear. That sense of validation that we considered him truly a member of our family. He was a part of our inner circle. I think from that point, he really got a second chance to be an uncle, especially with my daughters as they grew up, and as well as with my nephew when he came along. I noticed he was much more engaged with them, whether it's playing, fishing, or just talking with them. And I know my relationship with him grew. And I always will appreciate our late night conversations together that we shared. He was a great uncle to our family. A little bit about siblings. My uncle loved his sister and brother very much. And it was a big blow to our family when my Aunt Shirley suddenly passed. She was sort of the familial glue that kept the siblings together, even when they were little. The two brothers are always protective of her, and my uncle, he always spoke about her in reverence. When my dad passed, it was really hard on my uncle. They were about a year apart and had a close brotherly bond. They had many shared experience and adventures together. They always competed with each other. I remember as a kid, whether it was pitching horseshoes, arm wrestling, who could cast a fishing lure the farthest, who could eat the most at the buffet. It always seemed like my uncle, he always come out on top. He just couldn't could never lose to his little brother. He never took it easy on him. Losing that bond was heartbreaking for him. And the reality of him being the only remaining sibling weighed heavily upon him. He'd often tell me how much he missed talking to my dad. For his friends and relatives, if you were a friend or relative of Allan's, you knew his qualities. He was a kind, generous, likable, fun-loving person. He was a gentle soul, with a infectious smile, a hearty laugh. It's understandable why so many claim to adopt him into their families. At least until they had to feed him. I know his cousin Suzette shared a story with us, and when he was a college student in Ventura College, he'd come over and his family would feed him, and she'd say he couldn't eat enough for 3 people. For a little guy, he could put away an amazing amount of food. He often spoke of his friends and relatives with us, and usually that involved either like going to breakfast, lunch, or dinner somewhere was in the story. He loves spending time with you. And he was blessed with your friendship. I know his cousin Lester shared a little bit of a story with us too about, Allan making the time for him to play catch with him when his dad was busy. And that was, my uncle, he was always there, willing to help out wherever he could. And I'm sure you noticed at gatherings, sometimes he would just sit back and just be content to kind of just observe. And I believe he's just, just basking in the enjoyment of being with people he considered his family. He would often remark about how, friends and families and relatives, how they had this closeness and love, and he admired it. He was grateful when you included him in with your families. The Ulmer family considered him the number 1 son. you can't pick your parents, but you definitely can choose your friends. And I think my uncle was very successful in that endeavor. And I think, you all help fill a little bit of void that in his life that he needed. I know with this COVID pandemic and being more isolated from friends and family made it so difficult for us to show our support and love for Allan when he was battling cancer. I really want to thank my brother Royce and his cousin Julie for being with him at the end. They helped facilitate with many of us an opportunity to say our goodbyes and express our love for Allan, either it was through FaceTime or over the phone. They were also there so he wouldn't be alone when he passed. Allan, he enriched our lives so much with his love, support, and friendship. And though he's no longer with us, our memories of him smiling and laughing with us will carry us beyond our grief. And his kindness, generosity, and friendship will be an example to all of us on how we should treat others. I hope wherever he is now, he's enjoying the company of loved ones. He catches his 7-pound trout. He hits the jackpot. His belly's full. And he gets to take a well-earned nap by the lake. Allan Watanabe, rest in peace, and know that we all love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Are there others that would like to share a memory? Please come on up to the microphone. Julie.
Pushing my way ahead. Can you see me? The Watanabes aren't known for their height. Well, not me. Okay. Can you hear me? I sound like a AT&T commercial. For those who don't know me, I'm Julie Hallisey, and my maiden name was Watanabe. I would like this time to say thank you to some very, very special friends of Allan's. First is Betty White and Susan Simokaitis, Allan's neighbors. Both of these absolutely wonderful, lovely ladies watched over Allan. They brought him food. They collected his mail daily. They hauled his trash cans in and out every week for months. Allan especially enjoyed Betty's homemade bread, and he would bring them to the cabin sometimes, and everybody would fight over Betty's bread. And Susan made this amazing lumpia that he just so enjoyed. They discussed world events. He and Betty would watch the space station. And he enjoyed this wonderful, warm conversation with them. And these are just these amazing, loving, kind friends that give new meaning to the word neighbor. Lon and Neva Bishop and their son Tim and Robin, for the last couple of years, Allan's years were catching up with him, and these amazing, wonderful people helped him open and close his cabin in Lake Tahoe. And this was no easy thing to do. They'd rake up a winter's worth of pine needles and debris, and sometimes when the snow would melt, the swamp on the other side of the road would overflow, and it would bring more debris into his lot, and they would rake it all up and cut all the weeds, and it was overgrown. And then the most difficult point and part of all of it was Allan's 37-point checklist to open, and then go again another 37 points to close the cabin. Oh, it was unbelievable. And Neva was his special casino buddy. They would sit side by side by the slot machine and boosting one another on and sharing these super duper points. So I know that they miss him, as we all do. Clark Ulmer, in the back there, we see you, and the whole Ulmer family. Allan was more of a brother than a friend. Allan was embraced and drawn into the Ulmer family as a son for more than 5 decades. Clark and his sisters, Judy and Donna, were always there. I even had Judy's homemade chicken soup when I was at Allan's house, to share a meal, play some cards, and laugh heartily with their brother Allan. And finally, Ace, I see you, and Billy and Greg. I called them because I needed help moving Allan's furniture into the Oakmont residential care facility, because we were hoping he would be able to stay there during a recovery period. That didn't happen. And after his passing, again, I called on these fine friends who'd been with Allan as colleagues at 3M and iMation for decades. And they rallied and they joined me and they moved everything back and helped me get it into place. And so I thank you for rallying and helping me to accomplish all of that. Allan was my favorite cousin. And although he could be really obstinate, he tolerated with great patience my scolding and my badgering and my pushing. And then finally, and only finally when he was ready, then he would finally give me a nod and say, "Okay, yes, dear." And only then would he allow me to help him go forward in the direction that we ultimately would be okay for him. And I will miss him a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Yes, sir.
I'm a little taller. Okay, better? I'm Lester Miyazaki. I'm Allan's cousin. My sisters Suzette and Chris are there. And I just want to embellish a little bit more about my playing catch story, because it really is much deeper than just playing catch. At the time, our father was working in Santa Ana, and I'm this little boy who loved baseball, still do, but all I wanted to do was play baseball. So when my dad would be home on Saturdays, I'd bug him, and he would finally give me play catch, but he would come home Saturdays, and my sister and I would sit in the front of the house waiting for him to drive around, and we get all excited. So, but he was tired, and so he would leave Sunday night to go back to Santa Ana, right? So, in between times, my sisters would play catch with me, but the girls, just wasn't the same. No offense, sorry, no offense. But so Allan would come over, and then I found out he was in a softball league. So I was like, we play catch with me, and so he said, well, next time. Well, so something happened at his house where the plumbing was bad, was gone, or didn't have any hot water. So I remember he came over, and my mom answered the door, and he asked my mom, is it okay if I take a bath, because I haven't had any hot water. And my mom, of course, our mother, she looked at him like, why didn't you come over sooner, right? So anyway, I'm thinking, he said next time. It's next time. And so he's in the bathroom, and I got my glove, I got a ball, I'm ready. Come on, hurry up, get out of there. And my mom told me, stop it. He's not gonna play catch with you today. He came over to take a bath, and he was, and of course my mom, cousin Allan's over, so she's whipping up this dinner for him. She kept telling me, do not ask him to play catch. So anyway, he got out all nice and clean and everything, and he saw me, and so he went out to the car. He had that Volkswagen Bug. He went out to the car and got his glove, and he said, okay, let's play before dinner. And I was all excited. I remember playing, and it may not seem a lot, but for me, it just meant the world that he would do that. And like Ryan said, that he's always there to help, and that just meant, to this day, it meant a lot to me. And so, anyway, I just wanted to share a little bit more of that story, and express the gravity of it and what it meant to me. So, and from all of us Miyazaki's to the Watanabes, our deepest condolences, and we loved Allan. He was your favorite cousin. He was our favorite cousin, and he was a tremendous man. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lester. Yes, please.
For those who don't know me, my name is Ace Saito. I was really fortunate to have Allan as my friend. Allan and I met when I worked at 3M, and we probably met around maybe late 1968 or 69, or early 69. And of course, this is my first job out of the Army. But Allan and I became friends very quickly because we had a few things in common. First, we were both born during World War II, and we had the experience of the relocation camp. Allan was born in Banznar. I was in Jerome, Arkansas. And you know, we getting out of the Army. Of course, this is my first job. We were single and trying to make a way through civilian life. Allan and I used to talk a lot, and since our lives kind of went along the same path, but after listening to Allan, I always felt that his life was a lot harsher than mine. I have a few events or memories of Allan, and I'd like to share with you. I was a technician at 3M, and he was also a technician at 3M. And like I said, that's how we became friends. But I moved into a purchasing position there, and in the purchasing position, I was had certain, I guess, things that I would get tickets to sporting events and things like that. So Allan and I went to a lot of Dodger games, Laker games, Rams games, Clippers. Yeah, you name it. There were a lot of tickets. But one of the things that we did were we would go to Las Vegas for March Madness with one of our vendors, and Allan, I want to say the word gamble, like to gamble, but if you've been in Vegas for any amount of time, they like to say gaming because it sounds better. But we would stay at different places, but then there was one place that we always like to go to that I don't like to go to because they used to cater to the Hawaiian group, and they would have spam musubi, ramen. You could go downstairs and to the little cafe there, and there was something that we used to call chazuke, which is tea and rice, and you could buy a bowl of rice for 25 cents. The tea would cost 90 cents, but you get all the refills you wanted. But Allan and I used to learn how to count cards, and there were some blackjack machines, and they were single deck, and we used to count the card, and we emptied out 2 of their blackjack machines, and you know, and that's when the quarters used to come out. You didn't have to get a slip, but quarters used to come out, and the next time we went, they weren't there anymore. Like I said, Allan used to like to like to gamble, and he taught me how to read the racing forms and bet on horses, and also do other betting on like games and stuff like that. And I remember it was during March Madness, and 2 of the guys that were with us came up and showed us a ticket they had made a bet on. And they said, "Oh man, we can't lose. This is just amazing. They would give us this points." And so he showed Allan the ticket, and it says, "You dummies, you don't get points. You have to give points." So they had made the bet the wrong way. Allan and I, when we first started working at 3M, we were poor. We didn't have much money. So we used to talk about money a lot. And one of the things we used to joke about is that we read that William McKnight, 3M's first accountant, and he had 2.5 million shares of 3M stock. And at that time, 3M stock was giving around 60, 70 cents per share. with $2.5 million, we say, man, this guy has got to make $400,000 last for 3 months until he got his next dividend check. He said, man, if we could get that way, we'd be great. But back in the early 70s, Allan and I purchased a lemon orchard in Camarillo. And Allan really liked to work outside. I mean, he worked that lemon orchard. We pulled the irrigation pipes out and dissed the weeds and everything. And he really liked working outside. Well, one of the times, there was a big pepper tree that we decided we're going to cut down. So Allan and I we had a small 10-inch Home Lights chainsaw, and we cut a notch in it, and then we're back cutting it. And you know what? This is why you hire a professional to do stuff. Because as we were back cutting it, the tree fell on the chainsaw. and I'm panicking. I says, oh man, how are we going to get this tree down? And Allan just, his regular calm self says, well, let's go rent a chainsaw. so we had to go down and rent a chainsaw. But the thing about the chainsaw is that we had to rent it for all day. You couldn't get it for like a couple of hours or something like that. So we went back with the chainsaw and used it for, a minute or so. The tree fell. But we had the chainsaw for the rest of the day. So Allan says, oh man, let's cut this sucker up. So we used the small one to cut branches and stuff like that, and the other one we tried to cut some of the tree. So we worked for this for a couple hours or so. And you know, if you work on a chainsaw for a couple hours, man, your wrists get the vibration, your wrists get hurt, your arms hurt. It's like, oh man. So we decided, like about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, said, well, let's go. We have until the next day, but let's go take it back, man. So before we had to take it back, Allan said, let's clean it. I said, well, I'm tired, but Allan, being as meticulous as he is, we had to go clean it. So we take the chain off, clean it, and then we take it back to the rental place. And they gave us part of our money back because we brought it back so clean. All the sawdust and stuff like that. But the very last time that Allan and I were together, which was late October, before he went to the hospital, we had got hold of some bluefin tuna, and every time we got this bluefin tuna from our friend, we would invite Allan to come over to have sashimi. So he came over, and we talked, and then we cut the tuna up and had sashimi with wasabi and soy sauce and rice, and like Ryan says, he could eat a lot. Hey, that piece of tuna must have been about that big, and him and I just kind of just really ate it, most of it. Like I said, he ate probably about 3/4 of it, and I only ate 1/4. But knowing Allan as I did, what I'm really going to miss is like Ryan says, our personal talks of love, happiness, sorrow, loss, and how to navigate your life and your future. And as long as these memories stay, my friend Allan will never be gone. Thank you.
Thank you for being so patient.
Well, my name is Greg. I'm happy to be here with Allan's family and his community. And as Julie would always say, what a wonderful tribute to Allan. I met Allan in the early 1970s, and we worked together a little bit. And then later in the 70s, we worked with the program with the 3M company in the compact disc drive. And Allan was a supervisor, I was a planner, and we had a tremendous group of people that we worked with. But we had to work 7 days a week to accomplish this mission, and 3M had put millions of dollars in this, so it wasn't a light situation. And so we worked and worked 6 and 7 days a week. But as Ryan and Ace would tell you, Allan was a voracious appetite. And we would go to Winfrino's in Camarillo. And one mistake you would always make, you didn't want to be behind Allan as you go through the delicatessen line. Because he would take all of the wings, he would take the pizza, and you'd have to wait for the next serving. And I would always ask Allan, how come you do this? He says, I don't want to go back for seconds. He didn't have to. But one of the things that I remember Allan specifically was that we would go skiing, and as the 3Mers, and there's a bunch of 3Mers out here today, we would go up to Snow Summit. And Allan gave me his set of skis, and I was a novice skier. Allan was a very good technical skier. And so we'd get up there, and we would ski, and I would do the lower courses of the mountain. And we would sit there, and Allan says, let's make one last run. And Allan's not a drinker, of course, and all the rest of us were a bunch of schnapps drinkers. So, let's go do it. So we got on the lift, and we went up, and I noticed that the lift was going higher and higher and higher on the mountain. And I was going on one of the diamond runs, which I had never done. And I looked at Allan as I fell off the ski lift, and I was scared to death. And he told me there's only one way to go, but down. And I looked, and I watched these young kids and, older people and stuff go down, and Allan says, you guys, now or never. So he pushed me off the side, and I went probably 20 or 30 feet and crashed and burned. I went down another 30 or 40 feet, crashed and burned. About 15 trips down that mountain, and I was never so angry at this son of a gun in my life. And so we got back into the chalet, and all of our friends were there, and of course a bunch of people we didn't know. And Allan, was a quiet guy. He got up and took a picture of the runs at Snow Summit and put dots of all the places I crashed and burned. And I have a big ego, but it was minimalized real quick by this little Scotia guy that I used to call him. So that was one aspect of things. And one of the deals that I'm so fond of, that Allan would come by the house, usually about once a week, and he would always say, I can only come by, spend a little bit of time. And an hour would go by, 2 hours would go by, and we would talk about the same thing that Ryan would talk about and his wonderful friend. And I have to remind Ace, your boss is back there, about all those free tickets you used to give away. But we would sit there and talk about how he grew up. His benevolence was beyond compare. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And, of course, the thing of Allan was his cabin in Lake Tahoe. That was his baby. And so many of us, and several are here today, for decades we've been going there, and we would see our kids there, and we've had grandkids actually take their first steps in Lake Tahoe. And that made it so much more pleasurable for Allan. Just a wonderful, wonderful man. And so, in closing, to his family, you could not have had a better brother, an uncle, a cousin, a friend. He was just a marvelous, marvelous man. And for cancer to take him so early is just hard to compare. But he lived a full life. He lived a full life. And he had friends that will carry us our memory to the end of our days. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Greg. Are there others? I know there are many more memories here, and encourage you when we have the reception following this, over next door, bring those memories and fill out the memory cards so the family will have those to share. But this time, Royce has prepared a video presentation that bring back memories of Allan's life. If we could have that now.
Some high above the chimney top, that's where you find me. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, and the dreams that you dare to, why, oh why can't I,
when I get where I'm going, on the far side of the sky, the first thing that I'm gonna do is spread my wings and fly. I'm gonna land beside a lion and run my fingers through his mane, or I might find out what it's like to ride a drop of rain. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, there'll be only happy tears. I will shed the sins and struggles I have carried all these years, and I'll leave my heart wide open. I will love and have no fear. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, don't cry for me down here. I'm gonna walk with my granddaddy, and he'll match me step for step, and I'll tell him how I've missed him every minute since he left. And then I'll hug his neck. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, there'll be only happy tears. I will shed the sins and struggles I have carried all these years, and I'll leave my heart wide open. I will love and have no fear. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, don't cry for me down here. With so much pain and so much darkness in this world we stumble through, all these questions I can't answer, and so much work to do. But when I get where I'm going, and I see my Maker's face, I'll stand forever in the light of His amazing grace. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, there'll be only happy tears.
I think back on these times and the dreams we left behind, I'll be glad 'cause I was blessed to get to have you in my life. When I look back on these days, I'll look and see your face. You were right there for me. In my dreams I'll always see you soar above the sky. In my heart there'll always be a place for you for all my life. I'll keep a part of you with me, and everywhere I am there you'll be. And everywhere I am there you'll be. Will you show me how it feels to feel the sky within my reach? And I always will remember all the strength you gave to me. Your love made me make it through. Oh, I owe so much to you. You were right there for me. In my dreams I'll always see you soar above the sky. In my heart there'll always be a place for you for all my life. I'll keep a part of you with me, and everywhere I am there you'll be. 'Cause I always saw in you my light, my strength. And I wanna thank you now for all the ways you were right there for me. You were right there for me. In my dreams I'll always see you soar above the sky. In my heart there'll always be a place for you for all my life. I'll keep a part of you with me, and everywhere I am there you'll be. And everywhere I am there you'll be. There you'll be.
Daddy. Daddy. Ooh. Oh, you got power in them things.
Where it began, I can't begin to knowing, but then I know it's growing strong. Wasn't the spring, and spring became the summer. Who'd have believed you'd come along? Touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you. times never seem so good. I've been inclined to believe there never was, but now I look at the night and it don't seem so lonely. We fill it up with only two. And when I hurt, hurting runs off my shoulders. How can I hurt when holding you? Warm, touching warm, reaching out, touching me, touching you. Sweet Caroline, good times never seem so good. I've been inclined to believe there never was. Oh, no, no. Sweet Caroline, good times never seem so good. Sweet Caroline, I believe they never could. Sweet Caroline.
Allan sure knew how to mug to the camera, didn't he? We've gathered today to comfort one another and to seek hope. You've heard moving tribute to Allan from Brian and all the others. We've come up personal in the videos. You've seen the excerpts of his life, and all of us know that he was a truly remarkable man. But Allan wouldn't want me to try and make something out of him that he wasn't. He wouldn't want me to tell you that he was a saint. He was not a religious man, but he was a spiritual man. Some of the words that you heard to describe Allan were love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Some of you recognize those as the very words of St. Paul when he is writing to the Galatians, describing the fruits of the Spirit. They were manifest in Allan. Allan was a spiritual man. I want to share with you today from a couple of the Psalms. Words of comfort and words of hope. And the first Psalm is maybe the best known of all the Psalms, Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me at the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I didn't know that until right now, but if the Lord is preparing a table for Allan, he better put an extra serving on. The Lord is my shepherd. That's a line that is a verse that's so familiar, but it's not actually what the verse says. The Hebrew, the original language, it is Yahweh Roi. Roi is what we translated is my shepherd. The problem is that shepherd is a noun. Roi in the Hebrew is a verb. To be more accurate, it's an active participle. It isn't as poetic, but to be more accurate, it would be translated the Lord, the one who is shepherding me. And that's an important distinction, folks, because it tells us that God's not distant. God is not aloof. God doesn't sit on some mountaintop in the distance watching as life unfolds for us. God is actively participating in our lives, shepherding us, leading us, guiding us, protecting us, and ultimately bringing us home. The best thing about it, oftentimes the sheep don't even know that they're being shepherded. God was shepherding Allan in Manzanar. God was shepherding Allan in Japan. He was shepherding him in Lodi and the farm nearby. God was shepherding Allan in Vietnam. And God was certainly shepherding Allan all those years working for 3M. I'm sure, I'm very certain, that Allan was very aware of God's presence up at the cabin at Tahoe. The Lord, the one who is shepherding me. The second psalm that I'd like to share with you this morning is from Psalm 90. Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, you brought forth the whole world. From everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turn people back to dust, saying, return to dust, you mortals. 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. Yet you sweep people away in the sleep of death. They are like new grass in the morning. In the morning it springs up new. By evening it is dry and withered. All our days pass away under your wrath. We finish our years with a moan. Our days may come in 70 years or 80 if our strength endures. Yet the best of them are but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass and we fly away. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Relent, Lord. How long will it be? Have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your unfailing love, that we may sing for joy and be glad all our days. Make us glad for as many days as you have afflicted us, for as many years as we have seen trouble. May your deeds be shown in your servants, your splendor to their children. May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. To me, it's a great comfort to think of God, that he's been our dwelling place for all generations. But then the psalmist says, our days may come to 70 years or 80 if our strength endures. So what comfort is there in the fact that we human beings are mortal, that like the grass, we spring up in the morning and we fade and we wither by the afternoon. Our comfort comes in the permanence of God. God who's been our dwelling place since time began, for all generations. God is everlasting. And so our dwelling place ultimately is everlasting. However we choose to We can put our faith in the permanence of God, in the faithfulness of God. Even more than that, the psalmist says that we can learn to number our days so that we can get to the heart of wisdom. The psalmist is telling us that there is something to be learned about knowing about the brevity of life. He's encouraging us to live well, to value the days and the hours that we have been given. And I think that Allan intuitively knew that. And he did that at least as well as most people and better than most. There's a lot to be said for somebody who's not a saint, but even as an imperfect human being, is a hopeful person. The psalmist goes on to say, satisfy us in the morning with your unfailing love, that we may sing for joy and be glad all our days. Psalm 90 is a prayer. It's a prayer for deliverance from pain. It's the prayer of a nation that's been oppressed. It's a prayer of an individual that suffered loss. And the psalmist writes, make us glad for as many days as you have afflicted us, for as many years as we have seen trouble. The psalmist is reminding us to be grateful for the good days that God has given us. We all need to be grateful for the good days that God gave to Allan. We need to be grateful for the good things that he did. We need to be grateful for the way that he touched every life here. We also hope that God teaches us to number our days so that we value them, so we live in hope. There's a real hope in this message from the psalmist, and the real hope is the blessing of a loving God. It makes it possible for each of us to live a life in such a way that the whole world can be changed. Every action we take is like a pebble that's dropped into the lake. Ripples go out. We don't know where they go, but they touch people beyond the immediate that we know of. Allan was greatly loved by each of you. We're all grieved at his passing. But in Allan, we could see the works of God, not because he claimed to be something special, but because he, like the psalmist, knew how to number his days and to value each one and cherish him. May your deeds be shown to your servants. His deeds were certainly manifested in Allan. Psalm 90 ends in a little prayer, a portion of which I think Allan would wish for each of us today. May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. In other words, the psalmist says, we need to go on living. We need to live in hope that God will make it possible for us to make a difference with our lives. It says that because we know that there is a God, because we know that God is one who has been our dwelling place for all eternity, for all generations, and because we know that God that has taught us to number our days. We feel the pain of loss today. We still live in the hope of an everlasting God. Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. Lord, may Allan dwell with you forever. Let's pray. Lord God, what can we say in the face of a prayer like that? We thank you for Allan's life, a life that was lived well, a life that touched each of us. We thank you for his very human way of living out your hope and your love. Help us to do the same. Help us take refuge in your love. Help us to remember that our days are numbered, and help us be fruitful also. Most of all, Lord, lead us to find your strength and your permanence and your love. For in the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. Folks, this concludes this part of the celebration of Allan's life. We'll continue with snacks and conversation over in Fellowship Hall, over here to my right, your left, I guess. I'd ask you to let the family exit first, and they'll meet you over in Fellowship Hall.